All right, welcome back to the Proximity is Power podcast. I'm stoked for today. We have Mr. Matt Atkinson in the house. Matt, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
This is going to be fun. So, here's a little bio on Matt. So, Matt is a real estate investor, mortgage professional, and the founder of MJA Real Consulting. In 20 years of personal investing, he's built a $27 million rental portfolio and flipped tons of properties. Matt blends strategy with service, helping others succeed through coaching, consulting, and leadership. He spent over 30,000 hours mastering the game and has served as the president of MJA and a key member of multiple investor associations here in Utah. Above all, he's a proud husband and father who's committed to growth, legacy, and giving back. So, pumped to have Matt today. We actually met a couple months ago in Whistler, Canada at a Tony Robbins event, and got lucky to meet Matt and drive with him to the hotel, and we got to talking, and it was a good time, right?
Yeah. Actually, if my memory serves me correctly, I met you with a bunch of your sales guys doing incantations at Unleash the Power Within with my two boys for like
That's right.
minutes. Yeah.
That's right. We ran into each other in the hallway, I remember, and you taking your kids to multiple Tony Robbins events, which I thought was super cool. So,
Yeah.
pumped to talk. Just getting started, Matt. Where are you from? How did you grow up? What did that look like?
Yeah, you bet. So I'm from Midvale, Utah, just outside of Salt Lake City. Grew up as a bicultural, and it's important to know who I am. Come from a bicultural family. My mom is Mexican. My dad's a super white guy, kind of like the door behind me. And that gave me some different perspective growing up in the 80s and the 90s. I'd say as a child up until junior high, definitely did not have a lot of money. Probably junior high to high school, my dad started, he was self-employed. He's a HVAC contractor, started doing a little better, and then went to college, went on a mission for the LDS Church, went to college again, and then started originating mortgages in end of 2001.
Wow. So where'd you go on a mission?
Iowa.
How was that?
I spoke Iowanese.
Just English with a twist, huh?
Yeah, English with a twist. Yeah.
Nice. So, did you know growing up what you wanted to be or what you wanted to do ultimately?
Yeah, great question. No, I had 3 goals when I graduated from high school. And I think goals are they're extremely important. Goal number 1 was to make $100,000 in a year. That's just was one of my goals I'd written down. Goal number 2 was to drive a BMW like James Bond. James Bond movies were really popular in the 90s. He drove like a Z3, a little 2-seater convertible. And then number 3 was to grow my hair out long, like in a ponytail, like I had in my senior year in high school. I accomplished all those goals by the age of 24. I made $100,000 with mortgages. I bought a BMW, and I grew my hair out again.
I love that. Yeah, growing up, I remember the same thing. Like, if I could just make $100K in a year, I made it. So yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love those goals. You should have kept the hair.
Yeah, I need to. I'll grow it back someday. Funny comment about the hair. I used to work at this place right out of high school, an aquatics park called Raging Waters. You ever kind of like Seven Peaks in Provo? So I was a lifeguard at Raging Waters, and that summer I had longer hair, probably like down to here. And I remember I was like giving the Heimlich, practicing, and one of the head lifeguards called me Fabio. So ever since then, I was kind of like, oh, Fabio. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, love the hair look.
Hey, I worked as a lifeguard too, but I never had long hair. So
where'd you work as a lifeguard at?
At the Linden Pool here in Utah. So,
nice.
Yeah, it's a good time. So, what did you study in college then?
Great question. So in high school, after I quit playing sports competitively, I got into a club called DECA. DECA stands for Distributive Educational Clubs of America, an association of marketing students. And my teacher, my junior year in high school, said that if I went to some after-hours competitions, they'd give me extra credit so I get my grades up. So I was like, oh, I'm totally going to do that. So I took some business classes, like advertising and marketing in high school. And then she said, her name was Mrs. Thomas, She said, if you actually run for state officer, I'll give you more extra credit. And at the time, I was not in student government or anything like that. And I was like, not that interested, but one of my friends was like, dude, there's a lot of girls, you can beat them. I'm like, okay, I'm down to go run, regardless of what happens. And I actually won. So I was a state officer, I had the opportunity to go to St. Louis, Missouri, and Orlando, Florida. So then I, enjoyed marketing and went to graduate from high school, went to Salt Lake Community College, took your generals, not knowing what you want to do besides the 3 goals, right? Make a Hyundai, drive a BMW, grow out your hair long. Ended up going on a mission, came back, went to Slick. Then I ended up going to UVHS. I call it Utah Valley High School. Love the Hall of Flags. Started taking some more business classes. And then my junior year, I started originating mortgages. And that year I made about $85,000. I didn't make any money for the first 6 months. It was all commission. And I literally was a server at Chili's. And I was like, hey, if I don't make any money after this, I got to go back to Chili's. Because I was like all in doing mortgages. And that year, probably June, made 4 or 5 or 6 grand. And then that year I made about 80 grand. And I was like hooked after that. I was like, I'm making more money than my college professors. And a lot of people were doing summer sales like what you do. And I would say a good summer salesperson in 2001, if they made 30 to 40, did really, really well. So I decided I was considering doing that. I stayed, sold some cell phones and mortgages, and then the rest is history.
So you just got into lending, and at first it was really slow, and then you just got hooked on it once you started seeing those commissions.
And I didn't know anything about lending, like nothing. Yeah. I didn't make a lot of money, whatever a lot of money was at the time.
Right, and a lot of people when they start sales, have no idea what they're doing, and then they quit in that period that you were going 6 months working hard and not seeing results. So what kind of like turned the corner for you, I guess?
Probably what turned the corner was just closing a deal, right? Like lots of little reasons why things didn't work out, and a couple hit that same month and made replenished my savings pretty quickly, and then was really good at recruiting. So I probably got like indirectly 15 to 20 people in a year to come do mortgages. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, and then you started making money, and what got you into real estate investing?
Great question. I read the book called The Millionaire Next Door. Have you ever read it before?
Great book, yeah.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening. So at the time I bought the BMW, I bought a motorcycle, and I was renting. And I made $100 grand that year. And I remember seeing mortgage applications. The wealthier people owned houses. So I wanted to buy a house. I bought a house in April of 2004. So that's 21 years ago right now. And then I think I bought it for like $163,000 plus or minus a couple bucks. I put 20% down. My goal was to pay it off as quickly as possible. And then after putting 20% down and fixing it up, I literally had no more money left because I didn't have any money. So I took out a home equity line of credit and didn't pay my house off as quickly as possible. I got 4 roommates at the time. They were probably paying rent of $350 a month, so that's $1,400.
Yeah, you were house hacking before.
Yeah, definitely house hacking before it's called house hacking.
Yeah.
I lived for free, right? I was responsible. And then later that year, I got a lead for someone that had filed a notice of default on their house, and they're trying to refinance here in Utah, Magna, Utah. And I ended up putting that property under contract the week of the American League Championship game, because I remember my friend and I were at the house in Magna, and they didn't have Uber or ride shares back then. And my dad took us to the airport after we put the property under contract, and then went to New York. But I ended up buying that short sale in January or February of 2005. And then that year I bought like 3 more rentals. In 2006, I bought 13 rentals. That was super aggressive. I learned how to leverage my money really well. I didn't make a ton more. I just was really good at leveraging money and OPM, borrowing from other people's money also.
Yeah, so you were just finding the deals and then partnering with people and they were funding it or whatever, and you
Yeah,
were.
so I found the deals. I borrowed the money from other people. They weren't my partners, except for my dad. I bought some properties with my dad.
Uh-huh.
But we would lend money back and forth. Like one of my friends, we would lend each other hard money every time. We would charge each other just 2 and 12. So if I bought a property for 135, he would lend me 2 and 12 at 135. If he bought a property for 152, I would lend him 2 and 12.
Like
And that
2
was
points and
2 points,
12%.
12% interest. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that was a really, relatively speaking, and that was cheaper than regular hard money. Back then, regular hard money was probably 4 to 5 points
Uh-huh.
and 15 to 20% interest in Utah.
So a lot better.
A lot better.
So were most of these properties you were buying turnkey and you were just immediately filling them, or were
No,
most of
they
them?
all were fixer uppers.
Heck yeah.
So the uglier they were, not necessarily they were a better deal, but just like they were ugly and I bought them and I just kind of like was an addict. If I found it, I wanted to buy it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, usually the uglier the more opportunity there is, right?
yeah, normally that's correct.
So you just started buying these properties, you continued to lend, and you were using other people's money to borrow to buy more.
Yes.
And you started seeing those monthly checks from rents, and you just got hooked on it.
Yeah, but it wasn't a lot of money. It's funny that you say that. I was talking to my operations manager. She started working with me in 2005, 6. It's going on 19 years.
Wow.
And we would rent properties, 4-bedroom, 2-bath properties, for $850 a month. And now they're like 2,000, 2,100, 1,900, depending on the area. And the way that you would rent them is you literally had to go to the Sunday newspaper every Sunday, buy the paper, look at the little for rents, and that's how you rented out your properties. There was not KSL or Craigslist or
Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, Facebook Market. Yeah, there was none of that in 2004, 5, and 6. Yeah.
Wow.
Not yet.
So, and then you just continued on that trajectory, continued to lend, kept buying properties.
Yeah, and then in 2007, 8, 9, after the mortgage correction, you couldn't get mortgages any longer. I already had 10 properties in my name, and I am very fortunate did not foreclose or lose any of my properties during the downturn, which most of my friends unfortunately lost a few or everything. I started buying properties.
How come you didn't when other people did?
I just was really good better with my money, and I was not as aggressive. A lot of them built spec homes, and they got their asses handed to them because the bank financing went out, or they were negatively cash flowing a ton, or they were banking on the appreciation. So those all dried up very quickly.
You were just penciling the numbers a little bit better.
Yeah, if it didn't possibly cash flow, I didn't buy it. I didn't make tons, right? Like 100, 150, maybe 200 back. And then when the mortgage correction happened in 2008, like lending went down 15% or more. So, if I made 180, I had to work really, really, really hard to make 110. So, yeah, just a lot of things changed.
Wow. So, and then you eventually started buying like more like commercial deals rather than just single family too. Like
Yeah, great question. I started buying commercial probably in the last 5 years, doing 1031 exchanges.
Cool. Into multifamily mostly.
Yeah, small multifamily, 8 units, 12 units, a couple 8 units, fourplexes, a bunch of fourplexes.
Wow. And how many units do you have right now?
113.
That's awesome.
Yeah, between Davis County, which is north of Salt Lake, down to Provo.
So all in Utah, pretty much.
All in Utah. 100%.
All in Utah. How come exclusively Utah? Just because you know it, or?
Yeah, great question. So I went during the correction, I went to a lot of different states. I went to Detroit twice. I went to Chicago to look at houses, Atlanta, Florida a bunch of times, Kansas City, Missouri, Phoenix, Metro. Also went to a lot of sporting events when I went to those cities. And as I was looking at the properties, I just felt a lot more confident in my abilities to manage the properties here in Utah. I remember you could buy properties. They were selling properties like legit for $5,000 in Detroit, Michigan. But they were horrible areas. And I know people that bought a bunch of properties that way. They could have bought 10 properties for, only 100 grand.
Wow.
But then they got to put, 20 grand into them. And then all the stuff gets stolen, like, as soon as they put it in. So,
wild.
I just learned from other people's mistakes.
Just like the Utah market a little bit better. It's what you
I just love Utah market.
If someone's listening to this, they've never purchased a rental property, like, where would you tell them to start, or what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, good question. So first, they gotta save 6 months of living expenses. You gotta have 6 months saved.
Save an emergency fund.
Yeah, because I think it's Robert Kiyosaki talks about a spender, saver, and an investor. So you guys want to write that down if you listen to this. A spender, they spend their money as quickly as it comes or faster. You gotta physically transition. It takes probably a couple of years to transition from a spender to a saver, like being disciplined and actually saving your money. And then after you have a chunk of money in the bank account and you're okay not to spend it, then you can go and invest it. So there were definitely times in my life I was like, I had 12, 14 properties and I had $3,000 to my name. It's not very good. Just things were really tight or expenses happened. But I never short sold or foreclosed on anyone. So number one is have 6 months of living expenses. Number two is own your own primary residency first. Like buy the low down payment, better interest rate, buy with the house hack, as you said. Have some roommates if you're single, if you're married, have a basement apartment, rent it out. And then number three, establish some long-term goals. So a question that I ask people is, how much do they want in assets at what age, and then what do they want their ROI to be? So if you plan in the future and you can reverse engineer, then you can be intentional with what assets you're going to want to buy. So how much do you want assets, at what age, and what do you want your ROI to be? So Gage, if you told me, okay, I want $100 million and 6% at the age of 55, I'm just making up numbers, then you would establish what you have now and reverse engineer what decisions you need to make to be able to get there. Real estate's a great way to take your portfolio, do 1031 exchanges, buy something better. There's 3 reasons to do a 1031 exchange. Number one, buy in a better area, so go from like a C area to a B area. Number two, buy a newer property, so your property is built in 1972, buy one in 1985. Then number three, better use, so like sequel to a duplex to a fourplex to a small apartment complex, etc.
I love it. Those are great steps. So save an emergency fund 6 months. Buy your primary residence first, and I love that's a great place to start for sure, especially house hacking. Like buy a duplex or triplex or a fourplex, live in one unit, rent out the others, or just buy like a 5-bedroom house, live in a bedroom, rent out the others, your buddies. And then 3, like get clear on your goals. Start reverse engineering what you're trying to do. I love that. Right now it's 2025. Interest rates are high, prices are high, cash flow is slim. Where's the opportunity right now for people wanting to get in, or current investors trying to, level up?
Great question.
And are you actively buying right now too?
Yeah, you bet. I'm actually underwriting an 11-plex right now here in Salt Lake for 2.25 million. So if you're new, so 2 different things. When you're a real estate investor, I learned this from a guy named Peter Fortunato. Peter Fortunato lives in Tampa Bay, Florida. You can Google his website. He's probably in his mid to late 70s. Wicked smart guy. But he says the first 10 years as a real estate investor, you're considered a starter. You're all over the place. You want to do buy and hold, fix and flips, assignments, syndications. You want to be a GP. You want to be an LP. You want to buy storage facilities. You want to buy internationally, okay? And then after that 10 years, as you've been an investor actively, and I'm going to say actively as you've been buying and selling or owning properties. Then the next 10 years, you're considered a builder. A builder is a 20-year cycle. So if I've been investing now 22 years, so I'm on my 12th year as a builder, there's 2 primary revenue streams. It's either through rentals, residential or commercial, or through lending money. And I happen to just be doing both. So I earn income off my interest. So I lend people money, short term mostly, 6 to 12 months. But as you determine which strategy you want to do, then after that, the last 10 years of a real estate investor, So if you think about it, the first 10 years is the starter, second 20 years is the builder, last 10 years is an ender. You have two concerns primarily. Concern number one is preserving capital. You don't want to lose your principal. Concern number two is you want to be tax efficient. You don't want to pay more taxes to the government than what's necessary. So when you're buying properties from any of those three individuals, you need to understand where they are in their life cycle of real estate investing. But you also need to understand where you're at with what your goals are too. So I think if you understand, if most of the people on here have been investing less than 10 years, got to hustle, got to save up, make sure you have 6 months living expenses, buy one house a year, maybe one every other year, one every 3 years, whatever you're able to comfortably do. Stay married if you're married, or if you're getting married, or if you're getting divorced. You got to think about that also. Real estate's like monopoly. It's like slow and steady and consistent.
I love it. Where do you see the market going? Like, what's your forecast for Utah and for the economy?
Yeah, great question. So, dude, only the real estate gods know what's going to happen. I think I'm acting like we're going to still have a softening of the market.
Yeah.
The market, we'll pick real estate. With the real estate market going down, that's not a bad thing. That helps with affordability. Helps with me buying more properties. When interest rates go down, the market will go up because more people want to buy. So there's nothing wrong with this flat, maybe trending down, trending up, depending on where you live in the country, market. I think there's always opportunities to make money. Right now is a great time to buy seller financing. People that bought their houses 3 to 4 years ago, they don't have a lot of equity. They need to sell for whatever reason. They don't want to do a short sell. That's a great strategy to buy more assets. You can also buy properties. There's three types of investors. If you want to write this down for those who watch this. Number one is an accidental landlord. An accidental landlord is someone that inherited a property from a family member. That happens frequently. Number two is a burnt out landlord. They just had a lot of life scenarios. They got divorced, they got married, had a kid, the kid passed away, job change, whatever. But they're burned out. They're just like, I don't want to be a landlord anymore. And then the third one is a professional landlord. Professional landlords are great to work with. Obviously, they're more open to different scenarios. They might want a higher price in lieu of terms. But you got to understand where all three investors are. And it's a great way to buy from other people that way.
You got in first, like learning a high income skill, and you continue to do that and funnel that money to investing. And you also made money flipping. Are you still flipping mostly, or most of the ones you're buying right now turnkey more?
Yeah, great question. So I flip 4 houses a year, ideally 1 per quarter. Not too many.
You're a beast. So, and you're still lending, and you're running a mortgage business, right?
Yeah, and we own a property management company.
Wow. How do you do it all?
Amazing delegation. So my property management team has the largest team, and I'm the most hands-off on that. With that, I manage obviously my own rental portfolio. They manage it, and then I supersede, give suggestions or tell them what I'm going to buy or sell.
Yeah.
Mortgages, I have 2 people on my mortgage team. Still, they help coordinate with a lot of these conversations. I like to do the consulting part. I like them to, kind of like when you go to the doctor, you want to have the doctor tell you how to fix it, and then everyone else can kind of follow through. I like that approach. On flipping properties, I underwrite that myself still. And then lending hard money, I underwrite that too, because I want to make sure that the investors get paid back. So just kind of manage those out. It's also what you enjoy doing, right? Like, I like having conversations with someone that has $500,000 to borrow,
Yeah.
we're using and have a conversation with them and helping them with their goals and other things like that. So it's very satisfying.
You've helped a lot of people like learn real estate investing, get into real estate, help them with, lending on real estate, hard money or conventional. What business advice, or what are like some of the big lessons you've learned on your journey? Yeah,
great question. So I would say I would encourage people to do real estate coaching or business coaching sooner. So from 2006, the first event I went to out of state that I had to pay about $1,000, maybe a little less, was a guy named Tom Hopkins. Tom Hopkins. Have you ever heard of Tom Hopkins? He's an amazing sales coach. I actually went and saw him 9 times in 10 years, same event.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he taught the same stuff, just wanted to get better. And then from 2006 to 2016, started doing some like one-on-one coaching for real estate investing. I did a wake-up warrior with Garrett White. I did some sales coaching, training one-on-one to help me out a lot, the technical part. And then I went to Tony Robbins' event in 2018 and went to 3 events that year. And I think 3 or 4 the next year and joined Platinum Partners. This is my 6th year. So I think a lot of development, people need to, like your podcast, Proximity is Power, is who you surround yourself with, who you become. And sometimes you're going to outgrow the people, which there's nothing wrong with that. You're still be friends with them. Sometimes people outgrow you and you don't have the same relationship, which is okay. So, but if you have similar interests, values, and goals, then you guys can grow together in your own ways and be able to help each other out.
I love that. I asked you for business advice, and you basically said, yeah, invest in yourself, right? Like, get better at what you're doing, get around people doing better things to inspire, to learn, and to just level up.
Yep.
So you started getting into Tom Hopkins. He helped you grow your business, and then Tony Robbins, and you've been freaking all in, fully immersed for 6 years, and then the other years you were still going to multiple events. What are like some of the big takeaways you've learned from Tony Robbins, and how has being around him and at his events changed your life?
Yeah, so many ways. So first one, my wife and I, are you going to the relationship event this year?
Absolutely, I'm stoked for it.
Good. So my wife and I, he has a relationship event every other year. And for those of you guys who are listening to this, there's an event called Date with Destiny. If you've gone to Alicia Power Date with Destiny, it's just once a year, the first week in December. I would encourage everyone in their life to go to that once in their life. Even if you got to get like 10 people to watch it at someone's house, and I'll chip in $500. Like, yeah, just figure it out, make it happen. So with that, you know, the number one relationship, the number one person you got to manage is yourself, right? So the better we are able to manage ourselves, our emotions, physical body, health, vitality, fitness, relationships, all these things. And then the second person you got to manage is one person. Hopefully that's your spouse if you're married, or significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend. And then you start leading other people. So I would say being aware. So there's a guy named Eckhart Tolle. Have you ever heard of Eckhart Tolle?
Mm-hmm.
So he was at a Tony event maybe in 2021. It's called a spiritual event. And he told Tony, he's like, Tony, I am being aware of doing. You are doing aware of being. And like when you think about that, like Tony Robbins is a big doer, like just rah rah rah. And as he said that, I was like, kind of felt like Yoda. I was like, oh. So when you think about that, is we're human beings, not human doings. We're a human being, not a human doing. So sometimes we just need to relax and like take in what we're learning. And then something else I learned from Sadhguru is I am not the body, I am not the mind. Like our physical body, we just had Easter. If you're a Christian, you believe that Christ was resurrected on the 3rd day. If you're not Christian, no big deal. We just get a day off. But you know, they also, most Christian religions believe everyone will be, you know, resurrected. Our physical body will reunite with our soul or spirit. And I think like when I think of like I am not the body, I am not the mind, I'm something else, it helps me reflect and really not get that upset on a lot of things where a lot of people get so upset. Like right now, people are so politically motivated, and I think whatever political party you're interested in or committed to, that serves you. But I also think like at the end of the day, it's like, how is this decision affecting my life? Like we are always going to be able to manage that. But if we don't have the tools or resources, you know, we're doing the best we can based on what we know. But with technology, there's so much more available that if we choose to spend the time to learn and get better, we can do a lot better with that. So those are some things. Tony calls it candy, constant, never-ending improvement. So if we have candy in our life, in whatever we want to do, relationships, your spouse, your kids, your work, finances, physical fitness, emotions. But we should always be progressing, because if you're not progressing, you're dying. Just some different ideas of that.
I love it. Why Tony Robbins? Like, you invest 100,000 plus per year for the last 6 years going to Tony Robbins events. Why do you choose him versus all the other people you could go learn from?
Yeah, great question. Because Tony's like, in my opinion, the best of the best. Everyone has learned from Tony. Like, everyone. When we were at that finance event in Whistler, Canada, it was in February. It was over 2 months ago, which is crazy. Do you remember Steve Forbes that was there? Steve Forbes asked Tony Robbins why he doesn't run for president of the United States. Do you remember that? Like, how many billionaires are saying, hey, we want you to go run for the president of the United States?
And he's mentored like the last 6 or 7 presidents, which is
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I might as well learn from the best that's around. And I can learn from other people. There's some other mentors. There's a guy named Dan Sullivan. You ever heard of Dan Sullivan?
Yeah, he writes books with Ben Hardy.
Yeah, so he started Strategic Coach.
Yeah.
You might want to check that out. I think you'd find that interesting. I was in Strategic Coach for 3 years in a row, 16, 17, and 18.
Really?
Yeah. And then
I just finished Who Not How, and I'm listening to 10X is Easier Than 2X right now.
yeah,
so,
those are great books. Those
Yeah.
are great books. So that it's only once a quarter for a day, so it's not like a
huge commitment, like
Yeah.
Tony's.
yeah, not like 6
It's like
hours.
2 months of the year.
Yeah, not 6 hours, 14-hour days.
Yeah.
Find some random place in the year, but that's okay too, right?
Yeah.
So I got a lot from, and actually Dean Grazioni is a strategic coach student also, and he's friends with Tony Robbins. So
Oh, I didn't even know that.
yeah, there's a lot of people that learn from Dan Sullivan.
So,
Yeah,
do you recommend that one?
yeah, I think yeah, you have to make a certain amount of money
Yeah.
to qualify. I think a lot of people in here would, or if they don't yet, something to work towards. Obviously it's geared to people that are entrepreneurs and self-employed. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I think Dan Sullivan is a big guy. I like Garrett White, but he focuses on masculinity because a lot of people are healthy masculinity. I'm not an expert on that, but I've enjoyed his events. I did some one-on-one coaching with a guy named Dr. Kerry Johnson. He's more high level for like 4 years, one-on-one for like 4 years. So I think I didn't finish college, which I'm totally okay with. I've definitely studied other things though to help me progress my life. And the nice thing is, like, there's a book. Have you ever read the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss?
Great negotiating book. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great. I've listened to it twice, I think, maybe 3 times, but for sure twice. He has a master class. Have you ever seen his master class or participated in it?
Like masterclass.com or whatever. I've seen the ads for it, but I haven't done it.
Okay, so he has one. I watched it on a Delta flight, like 3 flights in a row, because I'd always like run out, or I'd watch something else, and I'm like, oh, I want to go. But it was fascinating. So there's a lot of very economic reading or listening to books, right? Like there's a app called Libby, it's like a library card. You can get a book and check it out. It's not always available like you want it to, or we're so conditioned to. Or you can just buy it yourself. So I think there's a lot of times everyone can study 20 minutes every morning before they go to work. That should be like a non-negotiable. And then on the weekends, don't study business. Like, here's a question, Gage. What's been your favorite relationship book you've ever read or listened to? Being married.
I would say His Needs, Her Needs.
Great book. How many times have you listened to it?
Did I read it or listen to it?
How many times either way have you read or listened to it?
At least twice.
Good. That's a great book. Good.
Yeah.
Good job for being 26 and already reading or listening to that book.
So my ex-girlfriend's parents were relationship experts, like counselors, and they had every couple read or listen to that book before they'd agree to meet with them. And it's such a good book. So
yeah, it's great.
If you're in a relationship, go read or listen to it.
Yeah, it's a great book. So I love the 5 love languages, right? 5 love languages. The Gottmans wrote a book. John Gottman's written a ton of books. But I think like whatever you want to focus on and improve. So let me share this quick story. So I went to this relationship event with my wife with Tony Robbins in Hawaii. They had about 400. No, they had about 300 men in one room and 300 women, except for one gay guy was in with all the women. There was one lesbian with all the men. Okay. So this lady named Jaya, but Jaya is a relationship coach. You guys can look her up on your own. Jaya, Erotic Blueprint. You guys can look that up on your own.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that. Yeah.
Good. So she has 300 men in the room. She's like, okay, how many of you guys have read 50 books about business? And everyone like raises their hand, right? She's like, okay, fair. How many of you guys have read 50 books about relationships? One guy raised his hand, named Will Bieber, Dr. Will Bieber. And everyone's like, woo, yeah, go ahead, okay? Because one guy.
Yeah.
She went from 50 down to 20. When she went to 20, probably 15% of the room raised their hand because there's a lot of well-rounded individuals that run in that Tony community or people that want to be more well-rounded. When she went down from like 20 to 10, she probably got like 30% of the room. I had not raised my hand yet because I was like, oh my gosh. I was like literally like writing down like, okay, what books? She got down to 5. I hadn't raised my hand yet. I think I read 3. The 5 love languages, his needs, her needs were definitely one of the 2 of the 3. I can't remember the other one. But after that, she's like, okay, look, guys, if you guys focus on your relationship with your significant other as much as your business, how much more satisfying would that be? This is eye-opening. So, like, on the weekends, I'll read or listen to relationship books. It could be about my kids, it could be about my wife. But, like, literally, I'm listening to one right now. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's called Boundaries. When to say yes, how to say no, take control of your life. It was suggested to me by one of my employees, and it's totally a relationship book. It gives a ton of examples of how to like set boundaries, communicate. But I just think like getting more aware, self-awareness, that's a high IQ that has an infinite return, and then you can implement. It's amazing. So I think like with what's going on in the world today, you can definitely create what you want to the best of your ability. Sometimes we don't always get what we want, we get what we need.
I love what you're saying, and what Matt's saying right now, like listen up, like rewind what he just said the last couple of minutes, because it is so powerful if you actually implement it. I love what you said. Every day, no matter what, you should be studying for at least 20 to 30 minutes. And Tony talks about net time, right? No extra time. Like if you're cooking, cleaning, go in the grocery store, have an audiobook in or podcast, driving your car, invest in yourself. And that's what I love about being in the Tony Robbins community with Platt, is because you get so many other people who are so committed to growth and leveling up, and they're so loving and like so helpful, and you just get to where you want to be faster. And I love that you mentioned like don't just study business.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing, especially for guys. Probably they're all focused on, leveling up in sales, leadership, investing, but they probably neglect like relationships or, health books. Be a student in all areas of your life. Like read the best on philosophy, read the best on relationships, read the best on health, read the best on investing, sales, everything. And I think that's what's so cool about you and like all the people I meet at Tony's. They're just so obsessed with learning and learning anything that can just help them tweak one area of their life and make it even more great,
Yeah. So as I was thinking about this, when I mentioned Garrett White earlier, I forgot what it's called. He calls it Core 4: Body, Being, Balance, and Business. Body, Being, balance, and business. And if you guys want to look that up, you guys can look that up on your own. But I think like a lot of people are out of balance, including myself. There's obviously things that I need to improve. We all need to improve on things. With that being said, is what you focus on expands. And as you think about what you focus on expands, then you start creating your life to the best of your ability and the grace of God, of course, to create those opportunities. Like if you'd have told me 20 years ago, Matt, you're going to be, 46, I turned 47 in a couple months. You're going to own over 100 properties. Your kids are going to play competitive sports. You're going to coach them. Your wife's like super hot, inside and out. I'm very attracted to her still. I'm like, wow, that's amazing, right? Like, I couldn't imagine the life that I have now. With that, also, I get inspired by seeing what other people are doing. I'm not jealous. I'm very grateful that one thing I love about social media is seeing what other people are doing, because I get inspired to do that. Like, there's a mutual friend of ours named Jimmy Rex. I've known him, I don't know him super well, but I've enjoyed getting to know him over the last 15 years. He posts stuff, I'm like very thought-provoking, and I've seen him at like some professional sporting events. I've seen him at Tony Robbins events. Like, just kind of notice when you see the same people in certain things. Sometimes you want to mimic what they're doing and being out with them.
Oh yeah, Jimmy's a stud. He's everywhere all at once. It seems like, like Tony does too.
Yeah.
Matt, you're really good networker, but like really, you're a really good friend to people. And I've noticed that about you. Like, you're really good at building relationships with people, and adding value and like getting in relationships to give. Where did that come from, or was that like innate in you growing up?
Yeah, great question. When I was a kid, we used to have rotary phones, okay, and then you had push button phones. I was the kid that would always call other kids to go play sports that I can remember. And I'd be the kid knocking on the door saying, "Can Nathan play?" or "Samuel play?" or "Cody play?" Like,
Just organizing it.
yeah, not intentionally. Just I wanted to play. I wanted the connection. And I remember, like, when I was maybe 15 or 16, we played basketball a lot. My dad was like bishop growing up. I'd have active keys to the church. I would literally sit at the church phone, so it was like one rotary phone in the back, and I would dial all my friends, like, "Dude, we're at the church. You want to come play? We're at the church. You want to come play? We're at the, like." And I remember call waiting, like if it was someone else was on the phone, I'd call back in 3 minutes. Not everyone had, or sometimes it was busy. Not everyone had call waiting, but they would click over. And then I would say, like in college, kind of the same thing. I would always get people together. I used to like want the bigger the group, the better. Not necessarily now. I think I'm way more intentional with who I surround myself with. But I think, like, yeah, when I have someone's attention and I'm engaged, and I want to be present for them. That's something I've learned from Tony Robbins. Being present and being more present I just want to connect with individuals. I used to have a saying, either people like me or they hate me. And I changed that probably a decade ago, maybe 8 years ago. I said that it was either they love me or they hate me. And I changed it to they either love me or they haven't gotten to know me. So if people get to know me, like, dude, all these things are from love, like getting called out to helping out other people. But sometimes I don't choose to allow people to get to know me, which is okay. Sometimes their energy is off, or their life not in alignment with where I am. So, but yeah, I'd rather say either people love me or they just haven't gotten to know me.
I love that. No, I love you. I know everyone like at Platinum appreciates and likes you, and it's just cool to see how you truly care and you love people. So I was gonna say too, Tony Robbins said something really interesting. I don't remember what it meant, but he said you never have a problem with the person, you just don't align with their rules and how their rules for how they live. And I thought that was really interesting. And it's like, why do I have a problem with this person I'm working with, or this person I go to church with, or whatever? Oh, it's because we don't see eye to eye on this.
That's good. Say that saying again. I'm actually writing it down. I don't remember that saying.
Yeah, he said if you're having a problem with someone, you don't have a problem with them, you have a problem with their rules of how they live. And that was just really eye-opening. And I love what you said too. People either love you or they just don't know you. And I like to think too, like if we knew everything about a person, we'd be making the same decisions probably as them. And so just remembering that is good.
One thing you just shared that reminded me is most people are doing the best they can based on what they know, right? And Tony says everyone can live in a beautiful state when everything's going well. So it's learning how to live in a beautiful state when you're challenged. And I think that raising your emotional intelligence and when you talk about beautiful state is how you show up, your interactions, how your demeanors are if you're listening to people. And when I came to the office today, I walked into the office and I told my team up front, I'm like, hey, just so you guys know, I'm not feeling the best, so I apologize if I'm short. So like yesterday, I have a cold. So like I'm conscious of like, hey, I can still choose how to show up.
Yeah.
But I'm communicating up front. Hey guys, I'm apologizing up front if I'm not my chipper self.
Yeah.
Now I'm like a chipper self, like still more than most people, and they're like, thank you, we appreciate that. Yeah. Where before I wouldn't have thought about that, and if something just because I don't feel the best.
It's really cool.
Yeah, just be cognitive of it.
Okay, last couple of questions. Matt, do you believe that proximity is power? And if so, how important has it been to you in your life?
Yeah, of course, proximity is definitely power. Whatever you want to get better at. If you want to get more physically fit, more spiritual, wealthy, better family man, who you surround yourself with, who you become. Or you can also pull people along. But sometimes when you pull so many people along, it's kind of draining. So it's easier to do it in a group than one-on-one, right? Just like you're doing a recruiting meeting, if you're doing like this one-on-one, but you got you and your number one team lead trying to get this really good kid,
right?
Young man, two of you guys will have more influence than one of you probably. But yeah, definitely conscientious of who I spend time with for sure.
What are some things you wish you would have known before you started your journey?
Okay, so great question. I knew about Tony Robbins in 1995. One of my friends was a senior, and we were seniors in high school. He went to Unleash the Power Within in the fall of 95, and I made fun of him a ton. And we're still really good friends today. And then senior dinner dance, he skipped the senior dinner dance to go to Date with Destiny.
Wow.
And so that was like way progressive. And then he did wealth mastery, learned how to make a bunch of money, and he was always vague about it. And then I finally went to Tony in 2018, and literally after the first day, I called him and I apologized. I'm like, dude, I am so sorry I did not go to this before. And he's like, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. I'm like, and then I was like, why didn't you tell me how amazing this was? I would have gone 20 years ago, let's see,
yeah.
I would have gone 20 years ago, right? 22 years ago, because it was 1995. So I was just, to be honest with you, I was way too arrogant, that I didn't need it. So number one is don't be so arrogant, knowing what I know now. I'm still good to be cocky sometimes, cocky and confident, but learn to get help. That's number one. Number two is I would have started coaching earlier in my career for whatever the amount was. So even if it was one-on-one or a group, or I would have gone to some seminars sooner. And then number three is I would have read books. When I started coaching with Garrett White in 2017 probably, I had not read or listened to a book for over a decade.
Wow.
Because I was too arrogant. I don't need that. But I remember I'd read How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, Millionaire Next Door. He wrote a book here. Garrett suggested a book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. You ever read or listened to that book?
No.
Dude, it's amazing. It's a top 5 book for me.
Really?
So Tony teaches Byron Katie a lot at Date with Destiny. It's called Doing the Work. And if we later, I'll tell you about it. But everyone on this podcast that's going to listen, Byron Katie, Loving What Is. I listened to that book and I was like, what the hell does this have to do with what we're learning? Everything. It's Is it true? How do you know it's really true? How would you do if you change that thought? Because a lot of these thoughts are negative or disempowering. They're in our heads. Like we can't change them. So after we read that book, I learned about Gary Vaynerchuk. I didn't know anything about him. I listened to a book called Crush It. And then I learned of Grant Cardone. I listened to a book called 10X. And then someone told me about Darren Hardy, and I listened to a book called The Compound Effect.
That's a great book. I love that one.
Yeah, so I call that a prescription. When someone's stuck in life, I will prescribe those 3 books, Crush It, 10X, and Compound Effect in that order, because it will give them clarity of different ideas that we need to do. So,
wow.
The second thing is to study, and then the third thing is I would have traveled more earlier in my life. I had the funds. I never took vacation. I worked here's the cool thing. I worked so much in my 20s and early to mid 30s, like 60, 70 hours a week. That's why I'm in the position that I am now. So I would have still worked, but I would probably travel once a year out of the country. Now I'm catching up. Like last year I went to 10 different countries. So I was gone a lot. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's having amazing experiences.
Wow, those were all gold answers. Like, love all of them. Books are the best things ever. Like, I got really lucky. My dad took me to lunch senior year, and I've talked about this in other podcasts, but he said, you only change your life if you change who you spend your time with and what books you read. Like, you'll be the same person you are today 5 years from now, besides the people you meet and the books you read. And he challenged me to start reading these books right out of high school. And I ended up reading 150 in a year, like my second year out of high school. And it changed my life. It changed my lens on the world, lens on myself, my thoughts about money, my thoughts about life, my purpose, and game changer. And I think too, I love what you said. A lot of people are too prideful to read, and I get it. Like, I didn't read a single book in like anytime we had an assignment to read a book, I just look at Spark Notes. I'm like, I don't want to read this, but I feel like you can learn from anyone, and the more I've learned and the more I've read, the more I realize how much I still don't know, you know. Sure. And just being humble enough to read and learn from other people doing better than you is the secret hack in life. Right. You know, it's the shortcut to getting what you want in life. One of my favorite quotes is, fools laugh at people's mistakes, smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from others' mistakes. And I feel like so many people are fools and they don't even learn from their own mistakes. Right. Some people are smart and they're like, I can figure this out by myself, and they'll slowly learn. But life's too short to learn from your own mistakes. You have to be wise and learn from others. And that's why proximity is power is so important to me, because it's like, I want to not make the same mistakes as Matt. So I'd love to get him on the podcast so I can learn from him, so I don't make the same mistakes, and I can maybe teach him something as well, you know, and everybody on here. So I think it's so cool that you've devoted like so much time and like money and energy into bettering yourself, because I'm sure your life's completely transformed. Blessed. Yeah, for sure. It's very blessed. Very, very, very grateful. And I know like life can happen, right? Life happens for us, not to us. And being grateful with what those scenarios are makes it go a long way. And that's what I think too. Like, I'm so lucky to have the parents that I have, like to be born in Utah, to be invited and basically forced to my first Tony Robbins event at 18. It's like, It's like Spider-Man, like with great power comes great responsibility. I got to start a podcast. I got to do what I can. Like, I'm writing a book right now. Awesome. I'm just trying to like contribute back, because I feel like I owe it to, you know, what I've been given. You know what I'm saying? Awesome. What are some of your favorite habits, or like what are your like must-dos every day? I meditate daily. Like priming or what? No, meditate. I use an app. I love priming, but I don't do it daily. I use an app called Headspace. Okay, yeah. I listen to audiobooks every day, 20 minutes in the morning. Like, those are non-negotiable, even on vacation, even when I'm sick. Something when we start meetings at work, we always start the meeting with one good thing that's happened. So that when you're like stressed, you're like, oh,
okay, what's one good thing that's happened this week? And allowing everyone to share, it's kind of like, okay, this challenge that we have is not a big deal. We can overcome it.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I learned that from, but we use it religiously in our meetings. We also do gratitude cards like this. So we write gratitude cards for our employees. We have a theme of the month. We put that on the wall. Then the first day of the next month, we share what the gratitude cards are, give them to people. Just different things that like change the culture of our team.
I love that. What's something you've done that we should all do?
Buy more real estate. Own more real estate. Like, even if you buy one property every 10 years, well, let me go back. Everyone needs, I do believe this, even if you're an introvert. So there's a book called Quiet. Have you ever listened to that book before? I think you'd like it. It would help you identify with the introverts of the world, because I would say 80% of the world's introverts, 20% are extroverts. So when my mom passed away on my birthday on August 2nd of 2020, and that was the most humbling day of my life. And my dad got remarried 6 months later to a lady who grew up in my ward growing up, that her husband passed away 6 months and a day before my mom did. But so he knew, he had two widows, and I've known her since I was like 13, so a long time, but not super well. And I asked her when they first were getting married, hey, what's a book you would suggest me read or listen to that's been beneficial for you? And she told me this book called Quiet. And the lady who wrote the book actually goes to UPW, and she hates it. It's really funny. When I was listening to it, I was like dying laughing, and she's like explaining her experience of like what it's like. But it really helped me understand to be more empathetic. Not everyone's my style, which is understandable. But just to be able to, seek to understand other people before you're understood. Stephen Covey says that in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I think understand other people helps me a lot better.
And buy more real estate.
And buy more real estate.
Would you recommend buying properties that don't cash flow, or keeping properties that don't cash flow?
No.
Or negative cash flow?
Yeah, negative cash flow is going to eat you up.
Yeah.
So you gotta buy properties that cash flow, and if that means you buy in another area, so be it. But yeah, if you have, let's say you had 10 properties that negatively cash flow $200 a month, that's $2,000 negative. Yeah. That's not very good. I'd rather have 10 properties cash flow $300 a month. It's $3,000, and that $3,000 pays for my X5 I want to buy. So
see, that's the thing where I'm at right now. Well, one thing I learned at finance is how 85% of my portfolio right now is in real estate, and I need to diversify into other things, But also, I had a couple properties last year that were out of state that were managed poorly, that negative cash flow because of the vacancy.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just trying to navigate. But
how long were they vacant for?
There was one that was vacant for like 4 months.
That's way too long.
Way too long. Like, dude, some of these management companies, they're
not good.
Let's say that, yeah, they're not good. They're like, the tenant will move out, and then they'll go over there, and then they'll take a bunch of pictures, see what needs to get fixed, and then get a bunch of bids, and then finally hire someone to do the work, and then they do the work, and it takes time, and then they pay the guy, and then they go back, and then they take pictures, and then they list the property. And I'm like, you guys suck. You should have already listed the property for rent when you knew the tenant was going to move out.
Yep.
And then done the work, and like maybe delayed the move-in date, but like have somebody ready to go when it's done,
Yep.
So
yeah, that's an experience. So a funny comment. There's a guy named Mr. Landlord, Jeffrey Taylor. He came to Utah probably in 2009. The market was like no bueno. And at the time, I'm gonna share a quick property management hack.
Yeah.
So we have all of our rentals become available April 1st until the end of August. That's it. So we have a very busy there's
window. Yeah.
Often, okay? Kind of like accountants during tax season. They're like slammed. But what's nice with that is if you stagger all your vacancies available, then you can always hire other, third-party contractors, what properties. But we communicate 2 months before if they're going to move out or not. So if we know they're moving out, we then go inspect the property ahead of time, go determine what it needs besides them completing it. But ideally, we want that property turned in 2 weeks. So we want a new tenant in, we've already advertised it, we have a deposit, and if we have to adjust the move-in date, so be it. But like more than 2 weeks, you just lose way too much money. But you got to be proactive with that. And most property managers, they're like, well, we're maybe in charge 8% versus 9 or 10. I just think I would say we charge the average, like we're competitive. There's people that are less, but we're really good to reduce our vacancies. So,
See, it pays for itself if you have a good
oh,
property.
for sure. And the other difference is a lot of property management companies are not owned by someone that owns a bunch of rentals. So I have a different perspective of how my team manages them versus, someone that might have 3.
And what's your property management company called, Matt?
MJA Real Property Management.
Awesome.
MJA Real, I'm a real guy. Real Property Management.
I love that. Share with me one of your biggest failures. How did you overcome it?
Tom Hopkins taught the following 6 sayings. I never see failure as failure, but the opportunity to change course in my direction. So write down change course in my direction, please. I never see failure as failure, but the game I must play to win. Write down game I must play to win. I never see failure as failure, but the opportunity to develop my sense of humor. Write down develop my sense of humor. Was that 4?
Yes. I got develop my sense of humor, change course, game I must play to win.
There's one other one. I forgot it. I was going to pull it up. So I learned these about 19 years ago. And they're incantations. Another one's I'm alive, I'm awake, I feel great. I feel good, I feel fine, I feel this way all the time. So I would say, lawsuits are kind of a funny thing. If you always are willing to learn from those opportunities, it's really not a failure, right? Like, if you lose in sports, you play the next game or there's a next season. If you lose in your relationship with your spouse, you get divorced. I tell people is that congratulations or I'm sorry, and they'll give me feedback of which one it is. My biggest failure. Like I bounced a check to the IRS for over $100,000 when we were married. That was not a great experience on my anniversary, no less. Because I filed an extension. I had the money, but not in that bank account. Like, I view that, like, my wife was pissed. That was not a great anniversary. How about as an anniversary I will never forget. With that, though, like, that you can view that as a failure, but that's a funny story now, right? Like, my mom passing away, there's nothing I could have done about that. I have this weird, unique perspective that most of the things that we have are temporal, and I don't really get as upset about stuff.
I love what you said about failure. I love those things because so many people confuse, I like to call it short-term defeat with failure, and failure only happens if you quit, right? If you quit moving forward. Like, failure develops your sense of humor, it's an opportunity to change course, and it's a game I must play to win. Like, those are absolutely true, and if people can realize that when they're going through something hard and difficult where they don't see, the light at the end of the tunnel,
right?
Super powerful, like, way to reframe what they're going through. Last couple questions, Matt. This has been a ton of fun. 3, 2, 1 pivot. What are 3 books? You've talked about a ton of books, but like 3 that have most impacted you and why? 2 people and 1 quote.
All right, 3 books. Loving What Is by Byron Katie for sure is a top 3 book. A book I read or listened to last year was called Die with Zero. That book was suggested to me by 2 people within a month, and it's changed my focus on how to utilize my assets currently. Let's see. Probably how to win friends and influence people. Like how to communicate. That's like such a basic one, staple. But I coach a 14-year-old comp baseball team. We have 2 book assignments. The first book was Think and Grow Rich. Half the kids have read it or listened to it. The new now this current one that we're on is how to win friends and influence people. I'm like, look, guys, you guys getting pissed at the umps or you getting mad that your team made an error. At the end of the day, like you're gonna get. And I gave an example. Like you might owe someone $100,000. I tell them like real life stuff. They're like, what? Their eyes get so big.
Yeah.
Like you gotta learn to deal with it. So those are the 3. What's the 2?
2 people.
2 people that what?
Has impacted you the most and why?
Tony Robbins and Tom Hopkins.
Love it. One quote that you live by or has impacted you the most and why?
Well, I was gonna say when I was 16. You should probably edit this. When in doubt, pull out. But that was a joke. That just shows the humor of I'm still a kid inside. One quote. There's so many quotes. Life happens for me, not to me. Like I've had some scenarios in my life the last 5 years, not very many. I'm very, very blessed. With that, remember your primary question from Date with Destiny? What am I learning from this experience to improve, enhance, and fulfill my vision? When I think of that question, it's a very empowering question. But like life happens for me, not to me. Helps me understand we get what we need, not always what we want.
Wow. Yeah, my friend Jeff Mendez, you probably know who he is, but he was one of the VPs at Vivint. But he says the biggest problem we have as humans is thinking that we shouldn't have any problems.
Sure.
Like, and we don't get the problems we want, we get the problems we need to learn and grow. Like, the human experience is to become the best we can be. And Alex Hormozy talks about this. Like, if you had a son and you wanted him to be great, resilient, disciplined, powerful, strong, honest, kind, what kind of things would you need to put in his path to develop those character traits? And it's like a lot of problems, a lot of adversity, a lot of things. And so I love that quote, like, life happens for me, not to me, even though in the moment it's probably hard, but like, just remember, life has to teach you something in whatever you're dealing with.
For sure.
Even though it's hard to look at. What gets you excited in life right now, Matt?
Spending time with my wife and kids, like just being intentional with them, coaching my kids' sports, traveling. Last year we went to 4 countries with my wife and sons. We went to Paris, France, Budapest, Hungary, Vienna, Austria, and Czech Republic, Prague. And we ironically on the way back to Paris the night before our flight left, the USA played the Serbian national team in basketball for the semifinals, and we got tickets. It was top 5 sporting events. Only my older son went. My wife didn't want to go. My younger son's like, I'm tired. I'm like, when else are you going to say I went to the USA?
Wow.
USA versus Serbia game, but my older son understands. You say yes to everything with dad because you get to see some really cool experiences. So
wow,
those are some great experiences I've enjoyed with my family.
That's awesome. If you had the world's attention for 2 minutes, what would you want them to know?
If I have the world's attention for 2 minutes, everyone should go to Tony Robbins. I am dead.
Amen.
I am dead. Everyone should go to Tony Robbins once. UPW. Get your callous heart to like be open and take whatever you're supposed to take after. Everyone should go to Tony Robbins.
Amen. Dude, me and Matt would die on a hill saying that. Like, it's changed our life. And some of my friends are like, oh, Tony Robbins, oh, like, just tease me about it. But it's
sure.
Like, I love what you said, like, callous heart, because I seriously, at Date with Destiny, my first time going, I felt like a mix between Scrooge and the Grinch. Like, my heart just opened up, and I just really like found a way deeper meaning to live life, and
That's awesome.
it was amazing. So I 1000% agree, and me and Matt can get you half off too for your first event. I'm
For sure.
yeah, I'm taking a bunch of people to the UPW in California. If you want to come, it's California, October.
Yep, in
Um,
Anaheim.
yeah, in Anaheim. Message me and I'll send you the dates. But yeah, if you want to come, I think normally it's like $2,000 for the VIP tickets to this event, but they're only like $700 with our plat discount. So
Yep. Here, I'm going to tell you guys the date, right? Oh, October 9th through 12th in Anaheim.
October 9th to 12th.
Yep.
It'll be a party. Me and Matt, are you gonna go to that one?
Yeah, of course. I'm taking my kids.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm taking a bunch of people.
So, where can people find you, Matt?
My real estate consulting website is mjarealconsulting.com, mjarealconsulting.com. Or I'm a big Facebook guy because I'm over 40. That's how I justify not getting on Instagram. Dude, I swear, just getting one social media can consume. So I'm a big Facebook. Matt Atkinson, you can find me pretty easily on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, Matt, you're an absolute stud. You're a force for good, and I love what you're doing. You're impacting. You're the president of UV RIA, like teaching people. You're so well networked because you add value, and you're just a good dude, and people want to be around you. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
dude, lucky to know Matt, and thanks again for coming on. And until next time, everybody, peace.
Peace.